Okay, so this is flipped presentation number one during our Hamlet unit, and they will consist primarily of some exercises in which I will show you models of some sentence patterns, beginning with some pretty basic ones and building with some more complexity, that you will be required to um, write your own examples of about something that you learn from Hamlet. That way, combining the sentence patterns, practice of what the pattern is, with what you're watching in the film to reinforce what you're understanding. So basically, I'm thinking we'll cover the first two scenes, which hopefully you will see in class today. Key questions that I think we might consider is just how does Act 1, Scene 1 compare and contrast with Act 1, Scene 2? Shakespeare wanted to contrast these mostly in terms of setting and mood and pace and purpose and topics of discussion. Um, and he also wanted to introduce us to the main characters of the play, those being Hamlet, Claudius, Gertrude, Ophelia, Polonius Lares. So, stylish sentence patterns. There's going to be several of these, I think 18 altogether. The first pattern, pattern number one, and you should take notes on these. You don't necessarily need to know that it's number one, but it's a compound sentence with a semicolon, no conjunction. As it says, two independent clauses, or ICs, joined with a semicolon. Some people dream of being something, others stay awake and are. It's a simple compound sentence that uses a semicolon that joins two independent clauses that are related in some way. We start with that first one, that first pattern, so that we can build off of it a little bit. In pattern number two, we have a compound sentence, semicolon, and then, woo, a conjunctive adverb. And you might say, conjunctive adverb, what the? But as below, you can see the example, however, is a conjunctive adverb. It's an adverb, and conjunctive is joining these two independent clauses. So some of the other conjunctive adverbs you might consider are hence, therefore, thus, then, moreover, nevertheless, likewise, consequently, accordingly, meanwhile. And so it was radical, it was daring, moreover, it was cheap. So in my sample sentence, I've actually added I've added an extra independent clause, making it three independent clauses. All of them are fairly short. The only question we need to wonder is, what was it that was radical and daring and cheap? Puzzling. Moving on, just comparing and contrasting Act 1, Scene 1 with Act 1, Scene 2. A couple things to take note of are in Act 1, Scene 1 starts outside, guard duty, dead of night, bitter cold. Act 1, Scene 2 is inside Elsinore, the castle, of which now Claudius is king. Back to Scene 1, there's a foreboding atmosphere. The guards are on the lookout for ghosts and other potential dangers. The mood of Act 1, Scene 2, excuse me, it's formal, celebratory. We have almost like a wedding announcement. In Act 1, Scene 1, the dialogue is very quick paced, back and forth, creating some tension. Act 1, Scene 2, especially the beginning of it, is Claudius's long speech to the court, a much slower pace. In terms of topics covered, a lot of Act 1, Scene 1 will cover the ghost, this mysterious appearance. And then Horatio gives a background information on King Hamlet to further the story along. In Act 1, Scene 2, Claudius, the current king, will deal with official business of the state. Scene 1 introduces minor characters, except for maybe the ghost. And then in Act 1, Scene 2, all of the main characters are introduced. That's it for today's not podcast, Flip Classroom. And don't forget to write an original sentence for each of those patterns on something that you learned from Hamlet. Bye.